This is by no means an OEM fit. Honestly, this is probably one of the worst fitting backplates. Actually, this is the worst fitting backplate that I've ever used. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going back into our 3D printed Steam Deck backplate, and we've made quite a bit of changes. All right, so main thing you'll notice is, other than the color, oh wow, that printed pretty decently compared to the last print. This is a I don't think this is matte, but it does look like it's a matte finish. But this is a marbling PLA. This thing looks great. Oh my god, this stuff looks great. So we have some print inconsistencies. Not too sure what happened up top here, which caused this thing to be so rough. There was definitely a layer height shift and caused some of this stuff to happen. Not too big of a deal. Our tabs didn't print again, but that's fine. I knew they weren't going to print well. Everything is pretty much the same, except you'll see the little thing on top right here, and then you'll also see this little slot here. So the key thing that we did different between this one and this bad boy right here is we actually have somewhere to hold our dongle now, which is this top part, which sits on top of our Steam Deck, which actually is not attached to this Steam Deck for some reason. All right, that's sucky. Don't worry, I already got my hot glue gun warming up. Well, it was clearly an oversight on my part. What happened there was, there probably was a slope to the CAD file here, and there was actually there's a little bit of slope on this one too, so it didn't attach perfectly when it was 3D printing, or it didn't think it was attached. So before we clean that all up, we're gonna just glue it a little bit just to reinforce it. But in between that, we're gonna clean out these channels. So you'll see these channels here. These channels are pretty important because this is gonna help with rigidity of the Steam Deck. Since we are bound by a two piece backplate, we have to somehow, even though this is pretty rigid, there's still a seam there. There's still a huge seam here. So I designed this channel here to be kind of a quote-unquote spine of the Steam Deck, so that it had some rigidity, and also you wouldn't see this layer height difference right here. You'll see that. We have these little slots, these little, I don't know what you would call this, shims. I don't know whether it's shims, and obviously they did not print well. They do not fit very well. They slide in through these slots and they interlock. I tried other ways, you know, I had other thoughts on how to make something to help hold everything together. And this one seemed like here's one of the issues when you're designing something in 3D modeling. You just don't model something and then print it, right? It's not that simple. You have to think about how it's going to print, and how, you know, strong it will be when it prints, and how strong will it be as an application, because just because you can print it doesn't mean it's going to be strong. There's parameters and limitations to 3D printing that you have to adhere by. If not, you're going to have very weak prints. You know, so it's like for like I've been hearing this term a lot from all the shows I've been watching. It's 3D chess. You know, you're thinking you're thinking 3 moves ahead. You know, if I need to add this to this, but then that's going to trigger this, and that's going to trigger this, and then that won't allow it to print well. And then next thing you know, you're redesigning it again and again and again. And that's why you'll see from our journey for this backplate, we're going to do iteration after iteration after iterations, making incremental, gains each and every single time we print a new backplate. So that's what you're going to be seeing from our journey on this channel. I knew this wasn't going to print well too. If you look here, there's a lot of crud in that channel because this is a straight up 90-degree bend right there. I was going to make it a dome shape. Domes print better, but I thought of that right when I was about to hit print. So I'll leave that for the next one. And I figured rather than spend extra time redesigning it, I'll just spend some time cleaning it out, which I kind of totally regret now because it's taking a little bit longer than I thought it would.
Boppy here. Just want to say, if you like this type of content, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe. Helps the channel out a lot. And let's get back to the video.
Overall, I'm pretty happy with this print on this side. This has turned out pretty freaking good. Fun thing, so I was playing last night Tiny Tina's Wonderland with this backplate without the fan on, and it was getting pretty toasty. Like, I'm not gonna lie. The fan was set to 5300 RPM. And we were hitting like 80, 81 in a room that was in its like 18 degrees Celsius. It was cold in there. I always have the AC running in the middle of the night for the bedroom. So it's cold in there. And we were kind of throttling a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. We were throttling at points. So what I did was I just increased the fan. This fan was off completely, and I increased the fan to 7,000 RPM, and that took care of most of our cooling issues, if not all of it. We were still in the 80s, but we went from the mid to high 80s to the low to mid 80s. So we did drop 5C just by cutting that vent hole. I could have plugged this fan in, but I chose not to because I left the dongle somewhere else. I wanted to get away from this, but I clearly messed up the print design, so we are gonna have to do a little bit of glue. Next version will be perfectly attached. My glue gun is still clogged up from when I left it on for over a day. Last night it was getting toasty, but just turning that fan on to 7,000 RPM really took care of that, and that's without the external fan on too. So you don't, just goes to show you, you don't really need this external fan depending on like, if you know how cold your room is and what game you're playing and how much power you need. Like, you don't really need it. A couple of Reddit questions was like kind of regarding like me printing this all in one piece, and I'm gonna be honest, that's probably not gonna happen in the foreseeable future. This is gonna be a two-piecer, and the reason for that is just because this thing is just under 300 millimeters wide, and that's pretty freaking big. There are some 320s out there, some 300s, and no matter what you get, most printers are going to be, for the most part, too wide to print this thing. I mean, too narrow to print this thing. So, and nor do I need to buy, like, if I had another use case for a printer that big, I'd be all over it. But honestly, I don't really have a use case for that. And if I were to release any of these STL files, most of you wouldn't be able to print them if they were in two pieces anyway. So that said, probably best to keep it two-piecer and just make it the best two-piecer possible. I'm really liking this color. Okay, let's clean up back here. See, this stuff, notice one big difference we did here was we changed the outcrop of this from just a straight up square outcrop to this rounder shaped one, more like what do you call that? An overhang. Call that a doorway, something type of doorway. We changed that because I knew it'll print better. But we still kept the opposite side, this face, square, even though I wanted to change it. I was getting some like I didn't like the look of it with a dome shape. I thought the square shape looked better. So it just, I think eventually I'm gonna have to change it, but you know, I just wanted to keep it that way for now. And also, I don't know if I'm gonna edit these videos. It's not that I don't want to, and I do like that, you know, I know everyone's time is valuable, but it's like, I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna be 100% honest, it takes a lot of time to edit a video, guys, not including just the rendering and all that. And I don't mind editing, I just find myself to lack the time to do it. So I don't know if I'm gonna edit, I don't even know if I'm gonna edit this video. I might just do it like the last video. It gives me more time to 3D model, 3D print. I don't know if does it make the content that much worse? I think that's the question I need to ask everyone. Does it make the content worse? Because if it does, then maybe we'll slow down the uptick of content, and then I'll just slow it down so I can edit more. Also, I did the live stream yesterday. It was pretty cool. You know, it was great. It was great. We talked about a lot of things. I'm gonna just release that video probably after this one, and so you know, you can hear my thoughts and takes on whether or not you should buy any of these products. All right, let's just slide this thing together. It should just slot right in as designed. Oof, it's not happy. So this is just lateral flex like this. It should help with that, but it's not gonna help keep it together by no means. The screws are gonna be the ones that keep it together. And actually kind of makes more sense to slide this on as soon as we get this attached to the backplate. Actually makes more sense to do it that way. Let's just make sure this thing is cleaned up a little bit better before we do any of that, just so we're not fighting it too much when it comes to the install. All right, cool, sweet. Let's go ahead and let's put these two together. One of the big changes we did was we adjusted the fan shroud so that it would hopefully fit a lot better. When I say fan shroud, I'm talking about the external fan. Last time it didn't print well to the backplate, and we had to glue the crap out of it to keep it in place, which is fine. You know, this is all prototypes. This is the Mark II. This is the second version, you know. Like, that's the thing about prototyping. You're going to make a lot of prototypes. Eventually, we're going to be able to route this cable inside this thing. If you look at the nub, man, they have made their connector so cleanly to the back of the fan. It's so nice. I think they really did a good job designing that. It's definitely a DIY thing. It's definitely not like a top tier product by any means, but they did a great job designing that thing. Also, if you're unaware of the previous mods I've done, meaning i.e. the thermal pad mod, which is probably the most important mod I've ever created, because that allows us to bypass the stock vent placement, and rather than having our vents down here, we can have it right on top of our fan. You should check out those videos because it's very big eye-opening why it's actually pretty safe to move the fan vent here, even regardless with this, to move it here from down here, because it's just it works so much better. It's just a better overall system. All right, Mark II, thank you so much for your service. Let's see how well the Mark III fits. This finish is kind of grossing me out. We should probably fix that, but we're not. So it should fit no problem, screw placement wise. I do think this might be slightly bit proud, but we're just gonna go for it. We're gonna go for it. All right, let's see, is this, first of all, I need to deattach this. This fan needs to get installed first. It's gonna take. Oh yeah, there's no way I made this hole big enough again. This is the second time I forgot to make this hole big enough. Gonna get this in place real fast. Oh my god, it fits. Oh, it doesn't feel like I'm hurting it too much. Definitely can make this thing a little bit roomier, so it's a little bit more consensual. But there you go. Look at that. That's really good. Oh yeah, I'm liking it. All right, let's screw this thing in. Let's see how it goes. Oh wait, I'm gonna put this in. This should fit, no problem. I don't know why. It's a 40 by 40, but it fits better at this angle than it does any other angle. And it should be a pretty tight compression fit. So when you apply pressure to that, it should fit pretty snugly. Because we're pretty proud. We're definitely proud. So when we apply pressure, it should squeeze everything nice and tight. So I'm going to have to pause the video here because... Actually, I think I have time to screw this in. I have a personal training client I need to train. I still train people. Still fitness, I love it. I only do it for people I really like. I don't really want to train people I don't like. When I say I don't like, I mean I enjoy your company. You know, I know I'm giving them it's a service, but at the same time, man, I've been coaching for over a decade now. You want to be training people that are cool. You know, you don't want to be training people that are quote unquote like just awkward to be around. Like some people are just awkward to be around. It's just life. It's, you know, no, it's no fault to them, but I just try to not work with people that make me feel awkward like that. And I'm sure most of us are. I'm probably you know what, who am I to say anything? I probably make a lot of people feel awkward. I'm just saying, if I had to choose, which I do, I'm fortunate enough to be able in a position to not need to train everyone or anyone anymore. So I'm very selective. This screw is like fighting for dear life. And I think that's because we don't have as much space in here, but that's fine. That's going to only give us more compression. When it comes to mounting this fan, that's the most important thing. This thing's a little flimsy still, but once we get the dongle in there, it's going to make it a lot more rigid. Oh yeah, look at that. Okay, so now this thing comes in. Let's slide this in place. Should just slide right in, no problem. We don't even actually need the full length. Oh yeah. And that just gives it the rigidity. So we're talking about side-to-side rigidity. And so there's less flex in the deck in the center. Notice that there's still like a seam, but there's no deviation between the two as much as it was before. There's a slight bulge just because this part is a little bigger than it should be. And that's partly because the print didn't come out super well. There should be another piece here somewhere. But I'm going to have to pause this video, train my client, and I'll be right back. All right. Is this thing cleared out yet? Dude, this thing is so gunked up. We're going to have to open this bad boy up, man. That's for a different time. Oh, this clicking. This is the, like, there's a crack in this print right here. So this, it's just so annoying to me because it's part of the Steam Deck that you really kind of grip kind of hard. Everything looks like it's fitting perfectly, way better than it did in the Mark II. A lot less glue. We still have a little bit of glue here, just to keep this thing together a little bit. Definitely an oversight on my part. It didn't make proper contact in the STL file when I converted into a G-code, so it didn't print well. It didn't print together, actually printed separately, but that's easily fixed. Question is does this dongle fit in here? It should, to be honest. It's the exact same model that we had before, but it is a little snug as we transition over to the opposite side, because we do have a little bit of buildup there. But this dongle actually does the same thing as this brace right here, because now there's no flex in there. So that means we can probably eliminate that completely on the next one and probably just leave some type of overgap seal so we can hide that seam a lot better. But this bottom seam looks great. It's very rigid. It's a lot more rigid now. There's hardly any flex in it than this one for sure, and especially the first one. And the question is does this plug in well? Yeah, I did not test this whatsoever, and it plugs in perfectly. Oh my god, it works. I love it when a plan comes together. All right, cool. So the last thing I am going to do before we really get into this thing is maybe I won't. I need to get rid of the slack on this thing. There's way too much slack in this fan. So what I'm thinking is, rather than chopping up my knock choke cable, because I kind of don't want to chop this one up just because this is still a PWM, I can just chop up one of these power connectors, chop this thing up. We're going to make this thing a snub nose. Because I'm sick and tired of all this length. We just cut out all of that. It's a lot shorter. We're probably going to cut out more of this. I have strippers. I don't know why I'm not using them. Cool. Black and yellow. So this one's going to be a little bit different. We're going to have to slice this bad boy open. And we got to be very careful to pull the cable and not the connector. We're going to re-sleeve the whole thing. So let me strip these wires. Then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to make little tiny hooks. And then yellow to yellow. Oops, it's not yellow. Just like that. Notice that now our hooks are in together, and then now we're just going to twist them just like that. That's a lot better bond than just twisting them together. We're going to pull our sleeve through like that. And we're going to repeat the process on the black end. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Push them together. Kind of twist them a little bit. I forgot they use like a J hook something or whatnot, but it's one of the best ways to do. Actually, you would want to even solder this as well. And I already made a mistake. I forgot to put the big sleeve on. So see how strong this is? It's pretty strong. Like, it takes a lot of force to undo that. But I totally got ahead of myself. I forgot to place the big sleeve on. Cool. So that's it. Then you can use a heat gun or you can use a lighter. I use a lighter today. And what's going to happen is this thing's going to shrink, and there's glue underneath this thing. So it's actually not only going to shrink to keep the wires intact, but it's going to glue everything together so it doesn't break loose easily. But we're going to actually make that even stronger by, hopefully this will work. Slice this thing open. I don't know, you can see the glue in there, that sheen, that's glue. And we're gonna wrap this thing like a blunt, and hopefully it will stick to itself, causing a little housing. I could have just used electrical tape, by the way, But I'll try to be a little bit more cleaner with it. And it's proving to not be as clean. Probably could have done it better with electrical tape, but you know what? You live and you learn. So we just shortened the length of this cable because look how much we cut out of it. It's a lot. We cut in, actually cut it in half essentially. So we're not messing with such a long cord anymore. That works and that looks pretty clean. I'm not gonna lie. That looks pretty dang good. So this thing should already be powered on. This plugs into right here. We are technically blocking our fans, but that's not bad. Like I was alluding earlier, we were getting some cooling issues last night without this external fan on, with our overclocks. If we weren't overclocks, we would have no issues with cooling. It is loud. I did set our fan. So we're just gonna go stock. All right, no custom fan curve. We are gonna check out our power tools, make sure we're good. I'm just gonna replay settings real quick. Okay, fan speed has dropped to 4,000. Everything's fitting really good. And while this thing kind of heats up a little bit, let's just talk about this. All right, so definitely the exact same thing as this one, except we made some minor changes to the way this thing mounts. It actually attaches. We got a seam now that blocks out what this seam, which actually, unfortunately, actually ends up creating another seam. This print just really was not the best print. Our fans just ramped up 5,300 RPMs. It's kind of where I was prior. I hate the random ramp ups. Let's set a custom fan curve. Should be around 5,200 RPMs right there. Solid 60 frames, no problem. I was running 70 frames earlier, but there was a new update, and you got to redo your overclocks when there's a new update, so I got to fix that. But man, it's running smooth as hell. We are using our max TDP at 21 watts. Remember, we are overclocked right now. We have 4,000 on the CPU and 2,200 on the GPU. We're not hitting those numbers because our TDP has been dropped down quite a bit. Good pressure onto the heat shield. This is good. This is really, really good. This is really, really good. Let's get into a fight scene. Let's see how well we handle that. Things are heating up. 81, 80. So this is kind of the temps I was having last night, but last night it was 18 degrees. Right now it's 22, so it's pretty warm up here. But it's handling it well. Remember, we're overclocked. 21 watt TDP, 4,000 in the CPU, 22 on the GPU. We are cooking. We are locked in at 60 when we're not fighting. Dropping in the mid 50s when we are. It's really good gaming experience. What is our dB? We're about 40 dB. Very good. Remember, our fan is pegged at 5,200. What happens cooling wise? So we're sitting here like 79, 80, kind of bouncing around there. We'll use the CPU as our main our figurehead because it's the one that is most consistent, while our GPU is kind of jumping around all over the place. So 70, 78, 79 right there. We just jumped into the 90s. But usually 78, 79. Let's go ahead and turn our custom fan curve. to full tilt and see how much cooler we can stay. We did jump up to 47 dB. Definitely louder. This is like cool JSOC's cooler territory. I'm backtracking right now. We're holding well under 78 now, but we'll see when we get fighting. Fighting is like the main thing. We were jumping into the mid to low 80s when we were fighting. Now we're right there in low 80s, high 70s. I'm about to die. That was the highest. I saw 81 there on the CPU. And this is a demanding game, guys. We're still holding above 50 frames, and we're in the thick of it. Let's see when I do the special. Yeah, still holding 50 frames. It doesn't feel stuttery at all. It doesn't. It's still pretty smooth gameplay. Super OP shotgun. Still low 80s, very low 80s, high 70s. Guys, it works. It works, and we already knew it worked. Let's turn this thing off. So we already knew this whole setup worked. This is the exact same setup that I had before we started making these backplates. And that was the JSOC's backplate with the vent mod with a cooler on the back of it. We just made it better, you know. And the way we made it better was this we bypassed this aluminum heat shield and this I don't even know. This is probably a pretty cheap thermal pad, and we have a good thermal pad. We bypassed all of that, and we're attached directly to our heat shield now. And overall, that's just going to make the system run a lot cooler. What we could do to make it, just because there's less of a middleman, we're going from one source to the other a lot better now. What we could do to make it even run better is to add a copper plate into there. But, you know, I think for most people, that's not going to be super viable. But now that we can cut out this back plate, we can actually cut out a recess to insert this thing. But is it really necessary? I don't think it's going to help too much. Maybe I'll do it for the sake of it. But I don't think I'm going to do it anytime soon. And that's mainly because that's going to be a lot of faff. And this works. This works. I'm like, do we really need to spend more time doing that? And it looks pretty freaking clean. Some of these seams don't look the best, but that's all print stuff. We can fix that. The hub fits perfectly. This hub has 2 USB ports, and it does have a 100 watt PD pass-through. And this is the one I did the video on. This thing is super cheap. This thing is $15 on Amazon, right? This thing is 15 bucks on Amazon. I think it was cheaper now. I think it was like $13, and I think with tax and shipping it was 15. And it is a awesome thing. Our Noctua fan is $13.49 on Amazon right now. I just saw it. And these heat sinks are 4 for $6. And so essentially $1.50 each for one of these heat sinks. It's relatively cheap. And then we're looking at other options out there like the JSOC's backplate. This backplate is $30, does not come with anything. And it doesn't actually cool anything because it just adds thermal capacity, and it doesn't do it very efficiently. This is a lot more efficient. We're actually tied to the heat sink, to the heat shield. I mean, it's a great running system. And man, I think this is it. This is it. I can't think of anything else to add to this. I'm pretty happy with the way this thing looks. I think for the next version of this, because we are going to make it better, I think what I need to do is fix this seam up a little bit. Also the big test too. Does it lay flat on the table? It doesn't lay flat because this fan shroud is just too big. Unfortunately, with the buildup, unless we go no shroud and exposed fan, you're going to have that buildup no matter what. It kind of kills me. But I had an idea that we get rid of the normal stock fan, not stock fan, but traditional fan, and we go for a blower style. That blower will sit right here, and it'll push air. So no fan here, it'll sit down here and it'll push air. We could do it that way too. That should work just as fine. But there's just something about this like CPU cooler stack that I like. But we could definitely move it. It's not, it by no means does it need to look like this. It would actually be maybe on another design, or maybe I could just make a one-off. I don't know. I don't know why I'm so congested right now. Sorry. My voice is just crazy. But overall, guys, this thing works. This is a great product, other than the print issues that I had, and that all can be fixed. That was a layer height issue. I got that new printer that is printing. Honestly, it's printing very good. I'm kind of angry about how well it prints, because that means I just wasted so much time on my other printers. But one thing I do want to do, the IC chip is a bit of a problem. It's a bit of a problem. And I kind of want to tinker with it a little bit, and just to see if I can get away with having more cooling on the IC chip. Also, this is printed with PLA, so this thing will warp. I think if I were to sell this product, I would print it with PETG, which is a little bit more of an issue to print, but it is a lot more resistant to heat. Okay, so we're just gonna dismantle this thing real quick, and this thing should just pop right out. Good, perfect. Look at that. These cutouts are too proud, or way too proud. We need to take off like a millimeter or 2 millimeters off each one. But overall, this thing, oh my God, it's beautiful. It works. This fan is holding well. I just feel like we can do a little bit better somehow on this cooling solution. This thing's making great contact. Boom, boom. Ties the whole thing together. So technically we could make it, if we pop this thing out even more, we could easily slip this thing on top. So one thing I've done in the past was actually put this copper plate inside of the Steam Deck. And I'm going to be honest, that worked great. That worked freaking really well. But was it worth the time doing it? That's the real question. And I don't think it really was. Okay, completely powered down, and this thing just sat right here. These copper plates are super cheap too, guys. So the only real issue for this is this screw hole and the SSD. Easily cut this thing out. This heat shield, it just does not transfer as much heat as you would like. The whole system works great. It's the coolest, one of the coolest running Steam Decks out there, and it actually is. The hardest thing about it is honestly doing the thermal pad mod, which is one real big good reason to do, to keep everything like this, is because it's pretty easy to do. What I want to do is I want to just make it slightly better. This copper plate really cools things down. And like I said, the only issue is this SSD. The way I look at it is, if I'm going to design anything, you know what? This wasn't really making good contact. I kind of want to make it the best I can, possibly. So one thing we can do is we can add a copper heatsink to this. In here. On the inside of our heat shield. This thing is just too thin. Needs more gumption. Needs more thermal mass. But how do we do that the easiest way possible? Just add a shim. So what I'm going to do, because I'm already not making great contact here, I just realized, which is not a good thing, is I'm going to put a copper shim in that. The reason why I'm putting this copper shim is I clearly wasn't making perfect contact on there. Plus, I just want a little bit more thermal mass on that thing. you want to glue this thing on. Also, I actually ended up damaging some of my thermal pads here. Actually, that's not, this is actually not a terrible idea. Where else could we add some more thermal load? So, this is our VRM. So I think that's what we're probably going to end up doing, is making copper shims that sit inside the Steam Deck. Oh, this thing is pretty thin. I think this is like 5 millimeters or just under that. So it's still pretty freaking thick. It's too thick to stack these on top. But I think I like that idea. Why don't we just shim the back of the Steam Deck? It's literally the path of least resistance. Like, it literally takes like almost no effort. You'd have to remove the black tape and then put shims on the back side of this. And then what that's going to do is that's going to increase thermal load. I mean, thermal capacity. And plus, we're really, right here, there's really nothing getting too hot here. So honestly, if I can put some shims here too, that will help a lot. Let's see if that works. I'm just going to test fit it. Let's see if it goes. I'm doing all of this just for shits and giggles. This is important. This right here is for shits and giggles. Will that still sit well? It is actually sitting well. Nice. This is actually going to help. All right, so here's what we got. This one's upside down. Not fixing it. We just added a couple shims right above the APU cooler. We still got our thermal pad mod. We still got our other thermal pads. I'd like to put one more on top of the VRMs, but I think that's okay. I really wish they didn't have this air channel cut out, but I get it why they do. I can easily hammer that out if I wanted to. But I want to try to make a mod that's easily replicable. It's super easy. How hard is it to peel this black tape off, put some thermal pads and some freaking copper shims in there? It's not very hard at all. It sits pretty good too. Copper plates on top of our IC chip and right above our APU, and all those are really going to do is try to absorb a little bit more heat, meaning the system will take a little bit longer to heat up, but I'm hoping that will allow the cooler to cool it down just a little bit more efficiently. That's my hopes. Also, want to tell you, haven't changed the thermal paste yet on this one. I plan on doing that in a later video. Honestly, have not seen the need for it yet, so I have refrained from doing it. Quick recap, still have the thermal pad mod. We just added some copper shims right here and one on top of our IC chip just because I felt I wasn't making great contact. Obviously, don't have to do this to any of your Steam Decks. If you have stock stuff, the only thing I would do is the thermal pad mod. I don't think this copper shims are too necessary. I'm just doing it for me because I've freaking messed with it so goddamn much, and I don't have a good attachment on that bottom IC chip anymore. I don't have a what you call a virgin Steam Deck. Oh, love it. Yeah, we don't even need that little piece anymore. Much better sealed than before. Definitely not having those clips there really make this thing bulge. All right, beauty of this thing, it has 100 watt PD charging, good placement, doesn't add too much bulk. It actually has no bulk. Only problem is the wobble. One thing I can't stand, but it is what it is. We can fix that to a blower style fan easily, which is something we might end up doing. Cooling is ridiculous, but that's because we're not in game. Let's put this fan 5200. I wish the Fantastic plugin, you could just manually set it by typing it in, because I think it's ridiculous that we got to play that game. Oh man, we're in the 60s.
But let's let it heat up. Remember, we're charging too, so we're actually running hotter than we were earlier because we weren't charging. Same overclocks, 4000 CPU, 2200 GPU, 21 watt TDP. We're not going to hit those clocks because we don't have enough power, but oh my god, we are running a lot cooler. Holy crap. Also, fun fact, I accidentally broke one of my speaker connectors, so only one speaker is currently working. Feel stupid for doing that, but you know, shit happens. Oh wait, hold on, wait a minute. No, we're not. I'm stupid. I gotta go to Power Tools. Sometimes you have to reapply settings on Power Tools. That's so weird. So only the speaker works. Solid 60 in fighting, man. You gotta overclock your Steam Deck. So we are creeping back up to that 78. 77. Kind of where we were before. I think we're doing a little bit better now. Only considering we weren't charging before. I think we would have been a little bit hotter if we were charging. Definitely that IC chip wasn't making perfect contact. So I'm glad we did that. And I do know that that little copper heatsink is for sure helping it cool down. And it's a very easy mod, guys. Super chill mod. Oh my god, he threw that axe at me. There's just so much loot in this game. So there you go, 80. Alright, so we're kind of exactly where we are, but I think for sure we are doing a lot better. Where's this guy at? It's above us. Because we are charging. No, you're not. These guys are creepy sounding. Guys, if this game's on Steam sale and you like shooters, looter shooters, definitely worth it. It's not easy. This game is not easy. I've died more than a few times, and come on, I gotta kill you.
Guys, I think this is pretty good, considering we're charging. Oh yeah, wait. Last time we had the RPMs at 7,000 RPMs. Fuck.
Let's do some testing with that, and then we can end out this video finally. This is really good temps. ADC is really good temps considering we are overclocked, and gives us a lot more headroom for a higher TDP. I don't know, maybe a 22. I feel safe with a 22 watt TDP. Oh my god, I thought he knocked me out. We're doing pretty good on temperature. We're below 80 again. Just running around. Obviously, we have that 47, 48 decibel fan right now with it at 7,000, so definitely loud. This is melee, these guys. Dodge you. Sell this loot. So still, yeah, very good. Everything's at max speed.
Still playing pretty good. This fan's at max speed. I think the next thing I'm gonna do is we're gonna clean up this wiring again. Even though this is great, I hate seeing this. I hate seeing that. Probably one of the best fucking Steam Decks out there right now. There's really next to no compromise in this thing. We get the great cooling aspect. We got a white case. The only real issue of this actually is the fin feel is not great. We have this gap still that we need to figure out how to fix, and I'm sure it's an easy fix. I think I just need to glue attachment there, and then same on that side. Main issue right now, the main issue is the lack of rear buttons. I don't think I have the mental capacity to tackle that right now. So I think in the next iteration, what the next iteration of this is going to be is we're going to try to get a good, nice, clean print. What I'm going to try to do
is fix the seam, fix this, potentially change this to a blower style fan, which is something like this. And my idea is for it to sit flat here, and then the heatsink there, and it'll be blowing hot air, blowing air over the top through this heatsink. So this is going to drop the shroud by 10 millimeters minimum, and it's going to keep it lower profile. One of the reasons why I didn't want to go with a blower style fan is these things are a hell of a lot louder, and having two blower fans, you know, having the stock one and this one, is going to make things pretty loud. So I don't think that's a great idea already, and I don't know, we'll see. But definitely, you know, putting those heat sinks on there definitely helped a lot. And I think what I want to do in the future is, I have a bunch of extra copper. Like I said, I got this at on Amazon for like $8.99. It was a big full sheet, about like that, and you can make a bunch of copper shims out of this thing. And this is way better than this cheap crap that you get from Amazon. And all you need is thermal glue. And that ends probably a very long video. We've made quite a bit of changes. This thing is looking amazing. This marble PLA looks gorgeous. It's gorgeous. We've made quite a bit of changes from the Mark II, and it's so much better for it. And a quick thing about the Mark II, it came out so crappily like this because I figured out there's too much water in this filament. I need to dry it out. It's been sitting in the attic for a while. I thought it'd be dry because it's hot up here, but it only takes one humid day to ruin it. And this one, it was layer height issue for whatever reason, easily fixed. Definitely going to make some changes on this. We're going to fix this seam up, make it a little bit cleaner, a lot cleaner. I think one thing I'm going to do is kind of just make it pop out more, make it larger. And I might end up just popping out this whole area in general, because I can. It's not an issue if I do or don't. Just to give less air resistance for a fan. And I was thinking about boxing this out, right? Cutting a hole here, moving the intake down here, and just having kind of a chamber, but then to help down with noise on this. But we'll see if I end up doing that. I think it might be more work than it's worth. I think it's just going to maybe take it down a decibel or two, which is not really going to change anything because this fan is exposed. You know, it's only really going to change things if we go to 7,000 RPM on our fan. But other than that, we're going to fix this problem. That's really, I think that's going to be on the top of my list. I love how the dongle fits in place now. It's just not glued on. Well, technically it is, but we can fix that. It just needs to be properly inserted into the model. I didn't insert it well. And look at this thing. It's great. It's amazing. Yes, we're blocking the fans a little bit, but you know, it's not going to really... I think the amount that blocks is really not going to affect it very much. I think the fact that we have a bar here affects it more than these USB ports. But other than that, guys, if you made it this far, thank you so much for hanging out with me and watching the video. And if you like, let me say that right, if you like this type of content, hit that like. And if you want to see more of it, hit that sub. You know, we're going to be coming out with a lot more. And if you really want to help out that channel, go ahead and visit us at DIYpoppy.net. You can go ahead and go there and print out some of the other designs I've made, like the backplate add-ons, some of the docks I've created, and go ahead, pick up a t-shirt if you'd like, or if you really want to help out the channel, go ahead and hit that donate button, and that all proceeds go into help building the channel and just making it just a little bit better.